Hello again. Alright, well, it's time to start getting some of these boxes built. Uh, this is largely just a pretty simple process of setting the boards together and gluing them and screwing them. Nothing terribly fancy going on. I might be a little scatterbrained today, more than normal. um, we had a bit of a rough couple of days. There was a issue with a very energetic dog being around a very sharp scythe, and he ended up getting his leg cut. So Wednesday we had to rush into a vet hospital, which I don't know. It's a little frustrating coming from Utah, where while medicine isn't perfect, it's definitely better than Washington. Insurance and medical stuff are the two biggest headaches we've had since moving here. And that kind of says a lot, since we live in a camper on 30 acres of forest. But like in Utah with vets, I've never had a problem that the vet didn't just take care of. I don't know if vets just, maybe they have more regulations in Washington and so they aren't willing to do stuff, but like the local vets around us aren't willing to do anything that has any kind of emergency. If it involves pretty much an x-ray, a scalpel, a suture, or the word emergency, then they just won't touch it. Super annoying and frustrating. So we have basically three options for stuff like that. Two of them are in Olympia, and one of them is in Longview. And we thought Olympia would probably be the better choice, so we started heading there. Emily called to double check and called every vet from here to there just to make sure. And sure enough, they all said, no, we can't take care of a cut on a dog. That's unheard of. That can't happen. I I facetiously mock. But they did, in fact, tell us that they can't do anything and that we have to take it into the pet hospitals. So we called, and the first one we called was Summit Pet Hospital or something like that. And their customer service was great, but their service was pretty crappy. So we called, we said, hey, here's what's going on. They asked some questions, we answered the questions. We described that he wouldn't let us actually touch it or clean it. We got it wrapped as best we can. It looks like the bleeding's mostly under control. The fact that he's going through a little bit of a level of consciousness change and his personality has changed, so it's pretty life-threatening. And they were like, okay, well, bring him in, and we'll do what we can. And they warned us that it's an emergency thing, so if somebody is determined to be worse off that gets brought in, then they triage and they take whoever is the worst. I get that. So we showed up and we got in there, and after, I don't know, half an hour or 45 minutes of waiting around, they said, hey, we do have two emergencies right now, and then we have two similar lacerations that need to be sutured that are ahead of you. So instead of making you wait here all night, we're going to see if we can find one of the other places that might be able to get you in faster. And we were like, okay, well, that's great. I guess. So they did, and then oddly I got a text right after they said, hey, we've found this other place. They said they can get you in. And yeah, and I got a text saying, hey, check in for your pet. We understand you're on your way. I was like, oh, wow, that's actually pretty awesome. They started the registration process for us. That's super awesome. Yeah, it turns out it was their registration, Summit's registration. So we went through that whole thing, and then we got to the other place, and they pretty much had no clue we were coming. I was like, wow, really? Okay, so we get in there, and we sat there. And we sat there for 3 hours. And we just sat there. So by sure, we can get them in, apparently means, yeah, we'll let them in the building. We never met the vet. We never met the surgeon. We never met anybody except the intake tech. After, I think it was 5 o'clock when the injury happened, 6 o'clock when we showed up at the first place, 7:15 I think when we showed up at the other place. So yeah, we were there for almost 5 hours, for just over 4 hours, and they finally came in and said, okay, well, we're gonna have to leave him overnight so that we can take care of him when we get to him. And I'm like, okay. And in the back of my head I'm thinking, yeah, that way you can just charge us for admitting him instead of just taking care of him. And I didn't say anything because I didn't want to be a jerk, and I didn't want to be that guy. Well, turns out I am that guy, because now I'm super bitter. So we were like, okay, all right, whatever, do what you got to do. They gave us their estimate. The estimate was what we've come to expect in Washington, is that the estimate is 3 to 5 times more than what we would have paid in Utah. That's pretty ridiculous. Like in Utah, to get a dog spayed, neutered, was like $140. The same procedure here is like almost 500. I don't know why. I mean, I know the minimum wage is higher. I get that, but whatever. So, yeah. Now, before we get on to that, just an update in the actual video footage. I'm gonna make some braces to help make sure that the sidewalls of the boxes are a little bit more stable and sound as best as I can. So I'm adjusting things and cutting those braces so that they'll fit. It's pretty simple. I mean, they're just like basically 1.5 by 1.5, a little over that, and then just to whatever length they need to be. Then I can get back to assembling. But yeah, so we end up leaving, and they took a deposit, which was the minimum amount, so we had to throw that on credit card, and they said they would call us as soon as they were done to let us know the status and when we could pick him up. So we thought, okay, we get home, we get to bed, take care of a few things, and Emily's alarm goes off to go to work, and we thought, oh, this isn't good. They haven't called yet. So Emily calls and says, hey, I haven't heard anything. I wanted to check on the status of Charlie. And they said, oh yeah, he's out of surgery, he's awake already, and now you're good to pick him up at any time. And she was like, oh, really? Okay, thanks for letting us know, I guess. So she said, hey, well, what did the total end up being? They said, oh, it was actually pretty close. You only need, the estimate was only off by $91. And we're thinking, okay, all right, we can make that work. So I leave because she's on her way to work. So I get up and I leave, And I head in, and I get there, and I said, okay, I guess I need to pay the $91 for Charlie so we can take him home. And she says, oh no, it's not a balance of $91, it's a balance of $276. And I was like, you guys told us 91. Oh, well, they had to administer more medications. Really? I kind of wish I was that guy, because I feel like I should have said, oh, so you decided that you were going to just pad your pocketbook to administer a bunch of crap that wasn't actually needed, since I'm going to be giving him those same drugs as soon as I get home, per your paperwork. But I didn't. I was nice, I was polite, and I said, okay, that's more than we were expecting, so be it. So we paid it and picked up Charlie and left, brought him home. They seem to have done a good job. I will give them credit for that. Their instructions were to keep the bandages on for the first 24 hours and then to let it be open to air to properly heal and dry. So I removed the bandages this morning, and the wound looks really good. It actually was closed surprisingly well. So now the challenge is to just keep him from licking it and opening it and making it worse. Which is a challenge, because he does not handle the cone of shame. Kudos to you if you know what we're talking about. Squirrel! That was a fun flick. But anyway, he does not handle wearing a protective cone at all. To the point where if it's on him, he actually fights and actively forces it off. So it was I had to take it off because it was to the point where he was gonna tear the stitches open, fighting to get that thing off. So he's just been laying at my feet all day long, and every time I feel him move, I look down and get after him and tell him to leave it. He knows that command. And then he just lays back down and goes back to sleep, and he's pretty heavily drugged. So, all things considered, it could have been a lot worse. On the way home, Emily and I were talking, and I suggested that we look into a GoFundMe just to see how that works, and she set one up, and we have some amazing family and friends who have helped out so that we can aid in getting that taken care of. So many thanks to all of those friends and family who have offered that support. I don't know if she wants me to share this. Emily she felt pretty guilty about setting that up, because she said she felt like a little ashamed, feeling like we were in a position where we needed to, which I get, and it's kind of a hard point. If it wasn't, we've got a wedding that we just paid for, and equipment that we have been building over the last few months, and if it wasn't for the timing, then we actually would have been able to handle that bill without really too much stress, aside from the discomfort of knowing that it's higher than it should have been. But we discussed it, and I referred to a friend that we have that often needs assistance, and I asked about that friend and said, hey, well, when you help this person, do you feel anger about it, or frustrated, or are you glad to have helped when you can? And she said, well, I'm glad to help. I mean, that's what friends are for. And I said, okay, so why would you deprive other people of having that blessing if we could use a little bit of help? And we discussed that, and obviously decided that it would be a good thing. And so definitely extremely grateful for everybody who helped. that really does mean a lot. And like just knowing that there is still good in the world is a pretty awesome thing. That's becoming harder and harder to find and harder to come by nowadays, it seems like. So that's something that is greatly appreciated for, and we look forward to, either repaying or paying forward at some point when we can. And actually, that's one of the best things that well, maybe not best, I don't know, but one of my favorite things to do when people are struggling. When we have a friend who's either had a surgery or a lost loved one, instead of asking, how can we help, or what can I do to help, or whatever along those lines, a while back I started asking, can I do this? And I think it actually came from a Facebook post, to truth be told. Something about just taking the decision away. And I thought back to when my mom passed away. That never does get easier. And I remember at I guess it was the viewing. I just remember all of our family was there, and one of my aunts showed up with a giant catering order from Chick-fil-A, and it was like chicken wings and stuff, and a bunch of sauces and some fruit trays and things, and I hadn't even realized I was hungry until I saw all of that food, and it just meant so much that such a simple thing was done for us, in our time of stress and mourning. And I thought I saw this post about taking away the decision, and I thought about that, and ever since that's the first thing I do. So everybody loves pizza, for instance, and pizza joints, whether it's a Papa John, a Pizza Hut, a Domino's, there's some pizza joint close to everybody. So that's what we do now, is when there's that time, instead of trying to add stress or ask a question that I know is never going to get answered, because I never answered anybody when they said, "Oh, let me know what we can do to help." I don't know. Like, that part of my world doesn't exist. So we just say, "Hey, can I buy you dinner? Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. Just let me buy you dinner. When is the best day to do that?" And that's just a great way to help people, and I love doing that. So I don't know. Anyway, as you can see, Emily decided that it was time to eat dinner, which is good because I'm almost done with this first box anyway. And I guess I overlooked talking about it, but you can see on the lip of this piece that I'm putting on right now, there's a little strip of board that I took. I like having a lip around the front of the boxes. I like the look of that, and so this allowed me to. This was a great way to space those, so they're all correctly spaced, and it worked for the most part. There was a few of them that it didn't quite work for some odd reason, but there's a look at the basically the finished box. And since I had food waiting for me getting cold, I turned off the camera, and that's where we'll call it for the day. So thank you for watching today. Thank you for paying attention to my stories and rants, and probably learning more about me than you ever wanted to. But stay safe out there, and yeah, God bless you and yours. And I truly mean that, and I truly mean I hope everybody's safe and healthy out there. So yeah, have a good day.